What's up, guys? Welcome to my channel. In today's video we got a BMW 528i. This is a 2012 model. I will be doing the rear brake, so check that video out. We got electric brake here, but however we're right now waiting for the parts, so we're gonna start with the front brake pads. So we got a few things. Okay, we got a brake sensor in here. This is the brake wave sensor here, so it connects here. So what I usually like to do is first let's go through. You're gonna have to take off these little covers here. There's one here and there's one back here, and then we should be able to put Allen key inside and remove that caliper. And for the Allen key, you're gonna need a ratchet. This is the tools we're gonna need a ratchet. We're gonna need this is the torque size, this is Allen size 7 millimeter, so this fits right in there just like that. And we're gonna use that with our ratchet there. Also, we're gonna need a compressed tool and a pry bar, which I left on the opposite side. Let me grab that. We have that right here. So pry bar is very important. So let me set up my camera and we'll start doing this job immediately. So first thing first, make sure sensor, if it can be saved, save it. If not, I would recommend you replace it. But let's remove this little guy right here, and that way it will give us a little bit of flexibility there. And if you can manage to get this from right over here, that's even better. And I'm gonna try to save this sensor. Okay, anyways, let's continue. Okay, to start off, you want to remove this little guy. So I usually put my hand here, so make sure this doesn't hit you. So it's got to come forward and out of there. So pretty much you just pull forward and try to get out of there. Make sure it doesn't hit you in the face. That guy comes out really simple and easy. So what I like to do is I also like to go behind here and try to compress this caliper a little bit, so we have a little bit of less. So if you want to compress your caliper this way, you can. So there's like two different ways to compress your calipers. So usually you can do it this way, okay? But just make sure if you're using the rotor, go easy on it. And I'm gonna go halfway. So you see how I was compressing that caliper, so the piston is being compressed. That's one way to do it. You could just keep going till this thing comes out all the way. This thing's gonna come out that far. But I do want to show the other way too, so we're gonna leave it there. But if you're doing the other way around, you don't want to do this, it's gonna be like kind of stuck in there. So we're pretty much like almost halfway done for the removal process. So now what we need to do here is, if I can manage to show you guys here, what I want to do is, remember when we took off, okay, let's see. So let me set up the camera better. So we're in back of the caliper. So what we're gonna do is the bottom, remember we took off that little cover, so the Allen key goes in there, number 7 millimeter. So we're gonna turn this counterclockwise, if you're looking right at it from the back end, and do the same thing for the top one. Then I'm gonna bring my camera up for the top one. So you want to get this till, you don't want to remove it, but get it all the way out so it's loose, and try to get it out that much. So let's go to the top now. We're just gonna have to focus from right here. So the top one can be inserted from right here. And once it's in there, same thing, counterclockwise. And this is where your caliper is gonna start to come loose. So hold on to it. Since we already compressed a little bit, it's gonna be pretty free there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off just my socket here. Try to put this Allen back in there and turn. Okay, there you go. We got that out. So I'm gonna back up the camera because it's time for us to take off the caliper. Hit. So we're gonna go easy. Remember, the sensor's in there. Sensor's on the brake pad. Because the sensor did take kinda a little bit of hit, we're gonna replace the sensor. Okay, so we're gonna replace the sensor, okay, because it took a little bit of hit. The other brake pad just comes right off. Okay, so that's that. Let's take off the sensor. So you just wiggle it. Let me get a needle nose. I'll get a needle nose and then I'll remove it. Okay, so we're gonna go back to removing this sensor. So check out the sensor. Usually if you use some kind of screwdriver, this thing comes right off. Usually I use a needle nose, and if you're replacing it, you can just break it, okay? So you see the contacts? There's a small little piece in there, small little shim. If you're reusing that, make sure you don't lose this little clip right here, okay? Because that's what holds this guy. So I'll put that to the side just in case. And so our caliper is off. Now we're gonna compress it, and then we'll prep it, okay? So the sensor's out. Sensor is coming out. There's our sensor. So let's just show you guys how to compress this caliper on this BMW. It's very simple and easy. If you got a C-clamp, you can C-clamp this guy, but you will need to use a brake pad for that. So what usually people do is put a brake pad right here. Usually tool like this, if it sits right on the piston, it helps me compress these guys a little better and easier. And hopefully my lighting is good. Yeah, that looks pretty good. But the camera is just way too close. There you go. And all you're gonna do is, a lot of people like to clean this boot. I just leave it alone. And you could put some kind of greasing and some kind of lubrication. Just try not to put WD-40 there. And these are pretty good brake system on these BMW. I never had issue. I have never had a caliper go bad on these unless the piston came off, and they're pretty light too. So I'm gonna let this guy sit here. We're gonna wait for the parts and we're gonna continue. But let's clean this guy up a bit. Not for nothing, okay? So very important, you clean and grease, and it doesn't have to be nice and shiny. So what I like to do is, first of all, this customer doesn't want rotors done, but you see this glazed part over here? If it was my car, I would change it, but expensive stuff. So brake dust here, be careful, use a mask. So all I want to do is, I want to clean the surface where the brake pad is gonna sit, okay? Pretty much at the area where the brake pad is gonna sit. And I'm gonna go get a, also try to clean this area, because I want to put greasing here a little bit. And what I just said was clean this area right here, brush this, and I'll put a little bit of greasing here, a little bit around this piston, because that's gonna be the metal contact area. I'm gonna be putting grease here. I'm gonna do that right now, show you guys here, there. Four places. 1, 2, same thing on the back end. That's where the brake pad is gonna sit. Usually I put a little bit on the brake pad. You know what, I'll put it on the brake pad instead of this, okay? You could do either or. Okay, so far pretty simple. So what I want to do here is I'm gonna just throw some parts cleaner here, and a little bit on this caliper surface here. Try not to spray on the boot because this thing will deteriorate it. But anyways, that's everything so far. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get some greasing. A lot of people like to grease these, but you don't have to grease these, okay? It's fine if you don't grease these two right here. And other than that, I want to put a little bit of greasing here, tiny bit of brake greasing. I got video just on the greasing system, and there you go. And if you do want to grease these little guys, it's all up to you. A little bit of greasing shouldn't hurt here, just a tiny amount, so it can travel in and out better. And a lot of people don't do it, but it's fine. Do the same thing for the other one. So we do have our brake pads. Okay, here's our brake pad. I'm using Evolutions. That's the brand I'm using, Evolution. I use the 2 pads on the opposite side. So 2 pads gonna have these retainers and 2 are not gonna have this. So this is the pad that's gonna go inside, and this is gonna be on the outside here. But we gotta grease it up, okay? And this brakes pads are gonna come with these, but I like to use the old one. It's all up to you. So what I like to do here is, we already put greasing on the piston here. We're gonna take this brake pad. We're gonna be able to put the sensor later on, okay? That's fine, okay? The wrong way, oops. The round part gotta be going down, and meaning it's gotta be because the caliper's round. And this guy goes right in, it sticks right in. Make sure you don't have grease on your fingertips, okay? I'm squeezing these to get it in, but it's gonna be a little bit tough, but you should be able to get this guy in there, okay? And if you got grease in your fingertips, be careful, use fresh gloves. But this is fine. I don't have greasing, just a little bit, but it's not on contact on the brake pad itself. And okay, remember, we talked about greasing things. So this is the grease I'm gonna be using. I'm gonna put a little bit on the contact part that's gonna contact the bracket there. So same thing here, right here, and right here. Okay, if you want to put a little tab of it, but remember we already put greasing there, this goes right in. So let's get our camera to maneuver a little bit down now, and because we're ready to put. So my camera is kind of acting up, it's heating up. So I'm gonna finish this job out, and let's take the sensor out of the way. So if my camera dies for any reason, let me just explain what we're doing here. So I want you to put the 2 Allen keys in, and I'm gonna get the tool for that. Okay, so make sure both of your Allens here are in properly. Okay, a lot of people don't use no power tools here. Make sure you catch all the threads by hand first. Sometimes you gotta hit the caliper like that because it's not all the way in yet. There you go. Still not in the spot. Probably gonna need some light down here for me to see. Because if you damage the threads, it's done, it's over. It's gonna be a whole new bracket there. Because you're not gonna be able to save them threads. So there you have it. So camera froze again. Let me shut it off. So this is a brand new GoPro. So I don't know if the screen is just shutting down, because the screen is shutting down, freezing, but it's still showing me numbers recording. So I'm gonna lock up both bolts nice and tight, and hopefully I'm able to finish this job up with the camera rolling for me. And there you go. Bada bing, bada boom, nice and tight. Okay, you can't leave it loose. And make sure you put the covers back on, and we're gonna come back. So the sensor, we're gonna reroute the sensor and stick it from right here. We'll do that at the end. I'll let my camera cool off, but we just gotta put the retainer on in the front here. So remember, I like to use this old one unless it's very necessarily that I do need to use the old one. I'm sorry, I like to use the old one because they sit better. They're better than the aftermarket stuff. So this is very simple. Usually, like them cameras on my way right now, but if it wasn't, you know what? Let me move the camera to this side instead. There you go. That's better. So all you're gonna do is get this positioned properly, and this little guy should just click right in just like that. Very simple and easy. Make sure you double check your work, and we'll be working on the sensor in a little bit, so stay tuned. So we're ready to change the sensor. You always gotta change the sensor if the sensor took a damage like this one. They got cut off. So it's very critical that you reroute the sensor. I'm working down here so you guys can see right down here. So you always gotta make sure you reroute the sensor the same way, because I've seen people leave it loose and hanging, and what that does is it hits a wheel, and the customer comes back after a few days, they get a brake light. So make sure you always, and this little guy is part of the mechanical system here. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna try to aim here this way. So same way the cable came out, the same way it's got to go back in. Okay, using some WD-40 here will help you, but I'm gonna try to manage without it. So we got the box all the way up here. Okay, let's point the camera a little bit higher. Let's change our light direction. There you go. So our sensor is loose. This box open up simply with these little tabs, and don't yank too much of the end on this end of the cable. So just push down in this clip and pull the sensor out. Very simple and easy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reroute the sensor first. Make sure this clicks. Okay, very important, it clicks. Your camera's not gonna hear it, but you can feel it budging there. Once it's in there, you put this right back in there. It's like a little slot for it, and that clips in, and the sensor was right behind these little retainers. Okay, make sure everything is routed the same way. So once I have it routed, we're gonna come back to the caliper side, which is gonna be right here, and I'm gonna smack that sensor in there. So again, we got the sensor routed nice and it's coming down here. We got that little retainer there. So over here, needle nose will help you, but if you don't have a needle nose, you can simply just take this sensor and clip it right in there. And don't forget that little silver shiny piece is there. So, and if you don't have a good angle, you can just simply take this little guy and do that to it. You see how I just turned the whole steering there, and this will clip right in there. Okay, I'm gonna get a needle nose. So working with the needle nose now, it's kind of tough just having one hand and the camera, but you should be able to get it. Yes, definitely tough with one hand and a camera in the hand. So let me guide the sensor in first, and then I'll use my needle nose to push it right in there. There you go. Once you feel it went in and it's good to go, just double check everything and make sure your sensor is sitting in there nicely and neatly, just like that. Okay, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to show you guys that. There you go. Anyways, thank you for watching my video. Make sure the wheel doesn't hit it. You're good to go. See you guys on the next video. One thing I do want to add is make sure you pump your brakes once the wheels are nice and tight. Bring the car down, don't start the car, bring the wheel, pump the brakes. And you see how we turn this, turn it back, making sure where it was at. Make sure you pump the brake pedal a few times. It's gonna be soft, then it's gonna get hard. You might also hear these things click in and out, clink, 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 that's normal. Anyways, double check your work, everything is tight, nice and snug. Both pads are in there and they're correct, sensors are in there, routed properly. See you guys in the next video.